You were beaten, bullied over the smallest things. That had to make you feel small, defenseless, alone, scared. All of these things that, kids shouldn't feel, but many times they do. And if that was you, okay, so today we have a pretty common situation, especially for new parents, and especially like you see here, parents who want to break those cycles that they dealt with. I've said before in my situation that I wouldn't change my upbringing for anything, but it's also not something that I would want to repeat for my kids, and this isn't a commentary on my parents. I've actually talked to my parents about this, and I said that, and they're like, that's a great way to put it. But anyway, so all that to say that overcoming generational trauma, you can do it. People have done it all over the world. And whether it's family generational trauma, society generational trauma, cultural generational trauma, where you currently live in an inner city or in the country or whatever, you can overcome that. Let's take a look at it here. So, hi, I'm looking for some ways to keep calm with my 14-month-old. I grew up in a very abusive home. We were beaten and bullied for the smallest things. First off, this sounds like it was rougher than my situation. And that's something that's also good to keep in mind, that there have been people that have come from better situations than you who've done far better. There are people that have come from better situations than you that have done far worse. There have been people who have come from worse situations than you that have done far better. And there are people that have come from worse situations and done far worse. It's doable, right? It depends on you. So let's continue. And that was a commentary for me, right? So I wouldn't use these to describe my upbringing. This person, I'm sorry you dealt with that, and I applaud you for taking these steps to correct it. I never wanted my daughter to feel afraid of me or that she can't trust me, right? So I want to applaud you for breaking these cycles, for wanting better for your daughter than what you had. That is the flow of it, right? That's growth. That's progress. For the last 2 months, she hasn't been sleeping well. 12 to 15-month regression, I'm assuming. I'm talking, we get about 2 hours of sleep a night. I'm so exhausted. It's probably very relatable. She's also going through the screaming phase, which seems to be my biggest trigger. Awesome for acknowledging your triggers. So awesome. This question is so awesome for so many reasons. For getting angry. I'm on the waiting list for counseling. Okay, you're even taking another step. I love it. I've never hurt her and never want to, but I have lost my temper and shouted at her, and it still hurts my heart when the way she looks at me after I shouted. Dude, you are so conscious right now. You're such a conscious parent right now. Even if you make mistakes, you're doing so well. I don't want that to happen again, but I'm struggling to keep calm when I'm so tired and she's screaming all the time. She's such a good baby, and she definitely doesn't deserve to be shouted at and feel scared. Any tips or advice would be appreciated. Okay. Again, like I said, celebrate yourself. Anyone who is watching this content, anyone who's writing in groups, seeking counseling, seeking coaching, seeking help to better your situation, better your parenting style, to better the future generations, and you're changing your family legacy, your family culture. I mean, dude, well done. Well done, raising the roof for you. Like anyone who's doing that, it's not an easy journey, right? And I remember this phase. My son, was, it was the same time period. Actually, his last a little side note. I told my mom about this when we were going through this. She's like, that's karma. I remember you wouldn't sleep at all. Speaking about me, you wouldn't sleep at all, screaming and crying. I was one of these babies, and I had one of these babies. And I remember one time when we were right in the middle of it, she said, don't worry, it won't last long. I think you only lasted like 2 years. And I was right in the middle of it. I'm like, 2 years? Oh my God, I have to deal with this for 2 years. So, but I'm going to share with you what I shared, privately as well. But these things come in phases. All of these behaviors, frustrations, actions, behaviors, they come in phases. They come and then they go. And then afterwards, we're left with our memories and stories and with how we responded, right? And I loved your attitude about this. I never want to hurt her. And you recognize, I see a lot of these questions and they're like, she's never happy, but you acknowledge that she's a good baby and doesn't deserve to be shut up. That's fantastic, right? So the first thing I want to say, number one, for you and anyone in this situation, keep going. That's number one. Keep going. You're doing a fantastic job. You're a fantastic mom. You're a fantastic dad. You want to take steps forward, right? So I want to acknowledge you for that and acknowledge yourself for that, right? We can get caught in the guilt of being like, I just want to wring her neck, because you have crazy thoughts, right? And that leads to guilt. And it's just important for you, just as I suggest for older kids, right? Acknowledge the times when they are behaving well, right? Do that within yourself. Acknowledge the good decisions that you're making, right? Now, how does that help when you're getting 2 hours of sleep a night? It doesn't. Just understand. So the first one, acknowledge yourself. Celebrate yourself. And understand that this is temporal. This too shall pass. Doesn't help. I remember my son would cry and scream in the middle of the night. Nothing would work. His mother, at the time we were together, her nipple was just bleeding, because that's the only thing that would work. And I was like, that can't happen. You need your sleep. So I ended up taking him down out to the street to go for a walk in the stroller at 4 a.m. This became a normal practice. And now I'm laughing about it. And I guess at the time, something that helped me was do what you can to separate from the situation, from the emotions of the situation, separate from it. And I just kind of looked at the situation. I was like, I am waking up. I'm going down into the street to push a stroller for 10 minutes until he falls asleep. Then we're going to go up, and he might wake up again, because that happens sometimes. But I separated from it and celebrate yourself. That's not taught enough. I celebrated myself. I was like, I'm doing a really good job. This is a really good thing that I'm doing. Celebrate that. People think, oh, you can't celebrate yourself because it's, arrogant, or whatever people think. People have weird thoughts, right? Celebrate yourself. Celebrate what you're doing. Celebrate the times when you are patient. And that's what I would say. Now, something even deeper. I love that you're on the waiting list for counseling, and that's just it. My biggest, all of these tactics, separate yourself from the situation, things like that will work, but it's all coming back to this, right? Find a way to deal with this trauma, a very abusive home. You were beaten, bullied over the smallest things. That had to make you feel small, defenseless, alone, scared. All of these things that, you know, kids shouldn't feel, but many times they do. And if that was you, do what you can to deal with those shadows. You're on the waiting list. You don't have to wait. You don't have to wait and do nothing, right? I have some techniques to deal with some of that within myself. I have a course called not conscious parent leaders, managing and releasing parenting guilt. That I've done. I take you through a few exercises that were very powerful for me. I know a lot of people who help people deal with childhood trauma. There is YouTube, there are podcasts, there are books. Deal with that first, because if you deal with the behavior first, it's just, it's like plugging a hole in a boat and then another hole would just come up. You have to deal with the root cause, right? So deal with that. YouTube, podcast, there are so many free resources. In fact, I'm putting together a list of free resources to share with people. Let me know if you want that. I'll put that, that will be in my link tree that's below in the description. You're welcome to use that. And beyond that, I appreciate you. Thank you. And I'll see you in the next one.